Hey guys, what's up? Loco here. So, CLG made a mid-season player switch going into week 5. Crown will no longer be starting for CLG, and Pobelter, who used to be the old CLG mid laner way back in 2015, he was doing positional coach for Team Liquid, is going to be their new starting mid laner. So let's try to figure out why it happened and what it means for the faithful fans of CLG going forward. To give you guys context on what's happening and why it's such a big deal, we have to go all the way back. If you go back to summer of 2019, CLG did pretty well. After a disastrous spring split, they almost made Worlds. They were really inching it out with Clutch Gaming, and Clutch Gaming was able to clutch it and make Worlds over CLG. And yeah, it was pretty disappointing for them since they were the only old guard that just hasn't been as relevant as like TSM, Team Liquid, or C9. And making Worlds that year would have really solidified their return to glory. So where did they make their off-season move? The first move they started out with was Biofrost for a Smoothie trade.
And they're like, well, I'm sure you guys are interested about that support trade. And I know some people say we lost the trade, give me Biofrost back, but we feel like we won it. And their explanation was around the communication, where Smoothie has always been a very vocal, for some teams even too vocal in their comms. But CLG, that's exactly what they needed.
Now, Bio and Stixxay never really found synergy. They just weren't greater than the sum of their parts when they played together. Both players are pretty good in their own right, but Stixxay was massively inconsistent, and Biofrost was going to be the shot caller of CLG, but he never really stepped up to that role, and yeah, it just wasn't that great of a bot lane. So they felt like bringing in the more vocal Smoothie would help a lot, and they banked on Stixxay and Smoothie having more synergy than Stixxay and Bio, which was pretty reasonable given how lackluster their 2019 bot lane was. Now, when we get to the Crown acquisition, I would say a lot of people looking at it viewed it as a straight upgrade. Pirate Evil, while he was a decent mid lane, he did have champion pool issues, especially when it came to stuff like Irelia and Akali, and Crown was a top 4 mid in 2019 along with Jensen, Bjerg, and Niski, and some might argue he was even better than top 4. If you look at the situation Crown was in on Optic, he didn't have anyone else on the team other than Meteos, so the two of them pretty much carried that team almost to playoffs. So when people heard that CLG was picking up Crown, everyone was so excited. There would be a lot more synergy with Crown being paired up with a Korean coach. We thought it would be Irene at the time. It ended up being Song. Also, having another Korean on the team like Ruin would help out Crown's performance and vice versa. Everyone was just really excited for the acquisition of Crown for CLG. So with the two upgrades in mind, the expectation would be let's do better than last year. They were top 4 last year, they barely made Worlds, so the natural goal for this team would be getting top 3 and making Worlds this year. And yeah, that didn't quite happen. They had a rather unfortunate start. The team started the season 1-7. I mean, we can talk about some of the visa issues they had, how they had to scrim with Tuesday, their academy mid laner, because Crown was late to get their visa. They almost started with Tuesday instead of Crown. They did get Crown just in time, but the team really didn't click. They lost games they shouldn't have, especially the one versus Immortals. The decision making seemed really off. There were individual underperformances, especially from the solo lanes. Ruin and Crown, their 2 imports, supposedly who's supposed to be their best players, were not doing well. They were losing to players like Golden Glue. Ugh, it just was not what CLG was expecting. And also, I think a lot of fingers were pointed at their draft, and I personally believe rightfully so. They were playing very hard to execute drafts on stage. I mean, Weldon talks about it in his weekly, how all of their draft at least had a win condition, but Weldon, when your win condition is winning side lanes and split pushing properly, that is not something viable for a team that's having so much internal issues and not able to execute on the basic scaling teamfight engage comps.
Smoothie once again holding the front line, looking to see when someone comes in. Ruin over the wall. Crown still waiting in the wings. Here comes the re-engage yet again. A slow not going to land, but here comes the re-engage now. For Ruin over the top. Here comes the Equalizer up there as well. Hako in the front line taking a lot of damage. They're going to burn him down to start. Looking for the re-engage though, but Azonia's Hourglass keeps Crown safe for now. And once again, Immortals forced to run away. TP burn. They're going to go for the mid lane play. It's a bit of a base race attempt there for Immortals, and Soaz is so very tanky. Recall's coming through, but expecting flashes to stop one. Inhibitor is down. They're going for the Nexus right away. And Immortals look to tie for second. The base is in shambles, and what a play for Immortals!
Can you believe it? Immortals pulling this one out.
So yeah, that's where CLG started. 1-7 for the first 4 weeks. There's a lot of blame pointed at the coaches, a lot of blame pointed at the players, but they were able to focus down where most of their problem was coming from, and they decided the teamwork around Crown and slotting Crown into the team is where they're having problems. Crown wasn't doing well individually, he didn't have good synergy with Wiggly, and they also talked about how in practice it wasn't working out either. Considering that CLG should have the most film, because they get to watch all their scrims, they get to know what's going on with Crown in and outside of the game, they should have the best idea on what's the problem, and that was their conclusion. Crown isn't fitting in well with the team, and he's having individual underperformances. I also want to talk about what it means for a team to bench an import, especially an import like Crown. Crown was such a huge investment for them. I don't think it's any secret that there were a lot of teams interested in Crown after what happened on Optic last year. He had a stellar year, and yeah, mid lane's one of the most important positions. And a benching like that puts strain on the relationship between the team and the player, and it makes the player lose trust in the team and also trust in himself. So there's something called a sunk cost fallacy. Because you invested so much time or money or effort into something, you just get stuck with it and it's hard to move on. And I definitely believe CLG should have had something like that with Crown. In no way was this an easy decision for them. I think the counterpoint a lot of people will make is Europe and how they're so willing to replace players more proactively. But do note, EU has a larger pool of talent to pull from, and also because the player salaries are lower, it's not as damaging to be swapping players in and out. Maybe that is the solution. Maybe that's what NA needs to do more, just bench players that are underperforming regardless of their star status or how much money they get. But there is a reality to it, and I just don't want to talk about things in a vacuum. Anyways, let's talk about Pobelter being in.
I think after these 2 losses, it's really obvious now to see where the the main 4 or 5 issues in the team lie.
It looks like 2 separate teams. What we do in scrims and what we do on the stage, not even like, it looks like 2 separate teams.
I'm gonna reach out to some other teams to see who we can get, but it's, I think, pretty obvious that we need to change something, especially around mid.
I think the first question a lot of people have is this a full-time thing? Is Pobelter on a loan from Team Liquid? What's going on? Luckily, Pobelter's girlfriend was actually able to answer this question for us, and it is a full-time thing. He is signed fully onto CLG. This is not a loan from Team Liquid. And in terms of how Pobelter will be, he will not be worse than Crown. I think currently Crown is one of the worst mid laners in LCS, at least from the performance shown on stage. I think the only other person that might be worse is maybe Aika or Ryoma. Funnily enough, all 3 are imports. But yeah, Pobelter has always been an easy mid laner to slot into a team. He doesn't require a lot of draft resource. He works well with the jungler. He's a good teammate. So I think Pobelter is going to solve a lot of their problems that are resonating from the teamwork aspect of having Crown in the team and the individual underperformance from mid lane. CLG still has a lot of things to fix, but it does give them a point to rally around and start working on their problems. Ruin really needs to step up his performance. Stixxay needs to be way more consistent as a player. He's been looking better in the later weeks. As an AD carry, getting caught out or straight dying in lane are huge problems, and that is like the issues that Stixxay was having earlier in the season. And also, Smoothie and Wiggly need to find better teamwork and dictate the macro of the team more in mid game. And hopefully with an easier mid laner to play with, this should be all solved. Or this should be getting better at the very, very least. I do think CLG can turn their season around, and if what they said about the teamwork aspect is true, replacing Crown was the right way forward. Okay, there is an elephant in the room that I need to address, which is me predicting CLG to be 3rd in spring, and also predicting Crown to be the best mid laner towards the end of spring split. I think it wasn't that unreasonable considering how good Crown was in 2019. And I also bet on Crown having better synergy with Wiggly than he did with Meteos, since from what I heard, they didn't see eye to eye on how the game was supposed to be played. Obviously, that prediction is down the drain now, but yeah, I'm addressing it. I was completely wrong, but I don't think it was ridiculous for me to assume where CLG's trajectory would be. Just look at all the preseason predictions for CLG. I don't think anyone had them dead last. And also, I don't think anyone could have predicted this kind of massive cliff fall off in terms of Crown's gameplay. But yeah, CLG had a lot of anti-synergy between the players this spring split, and hopefully this roster swap should help turn their season around. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I've been trying to do more varied types of content other than Loco Recap. And I really should have done the CLG Pobelter one as soon as the news was announced, but I had other videos that I really wanted to do, so it got kind of delayed. It's probably going to come out on a Saturday. Watch it before LCS and enjoy it. And yeah, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. And one last thing, I'm not crazy, I'm just Loco. Bye!